Welcome back. Formed in 2001, the Gas Exporting Countries Forum is a loose group of the world's main gas powers. Between them, members hold about 3/4 of all the world's gas reserves. With a primary focus of boosting cooperation and coordination, these key gas-producing nations signed a charter in December of last year, transforming the GECF into a formal organization. This has led many to draw comparisons between the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and the group. A comparison the GECF are keen to reject. Owen Fay explains.
In global economics, there is one bet, and only one bet, which you can make, and which is guaranteed to win every time. The bet is that whatever the state of the global economy, demand for energy will keep going up. These are the participants in the GECF, an affiliation of the world's key natural gas exporting nations. And in fact, they're so confident, they can even see a way in which this global financial collapse can work to their advantage.
The positive long-term outlook of our industry provides us with the confidence to march ahead, and the recent economic crisis, which was unexpected and unpredicted, should provide us with the opportunity to review our strategy and to tackle the possible impact of these challenges.
The key distinction is that the experts gathered here believe not only that consumption will continue to climb, but also that the percentages are about to shift significantly in their favor. And as they control 70% of the world's natural gas reserves, that's quite a shift. Among other trends, they anticipate that the United States is now moving beyond rhetoric and is increasingly determined to loosen its dependence on oil. Barack Obama is pushing through new legislation reducing fuel emissions, and the perilous state of the American car industry points to a future of smaller, more efficient vehicles. Good news if you're in the natural gas business. Have a look at global energy consumption over the past 40 years. What leaps out right away is the sheer scale of demand, and this should make it clear why environmental groups are so worried. Now look at the breakdown. This is oil, by far the biggest player. This is natural gas, coal, and these last two are nuclear energy and hydroelectricity. The little dips on the lines represent the impact on energy from all the recessions and energy crises since the mid-60s. And as you can see, they've barely made a dent. Which means if the global trend is going to lead to less oil consumption, then coal and natural gas will benefit, because despite all the advances in alternative sources of fuel, they're still minor players. Qatar controls the single largest natural gas field in the world. It's estimated it could conceivably run at full capacity for well over 100 years. The other side of the field belongs to Iran, and although its production is years behind, it's slowly catching up. And that's why forums like this one are getting attention, as is the guest list.
One of the main reasons of having forums of this sort is to find out what would be needed in the future and be ready before the time, for the time that the demand is going to be increasing.
The natural gas players are choosing to focus on innovation and new technology, knowing as they do, the momentum is shifting their way. And when the global economy inevitably recovers, it's a safe bet this industry is set to flourish. Owen Fay, Al Jazeera.
India, a country full of contradictions, boasting the largest number of billionaires in Asia, but also home to the largest slums. With much of India's population living below the poverty line, the newly elected government is trying to bridge the gap between rich and poor. Over to Kuala Lumpur for the details.
India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. But according to a recent government survey, 77% of the population still lives on less than 50 cents a day. So it comes as no surprise that the new budget, revealed earlier this week, prioritizes the needs of the poor while trying to counter the economic slowdown. From 9% last year, India's economy grew by just 6.7% in the first 4 months of this year. That's the slowest in 6 years. The Congress Party is fighting back by boosting its total spending by 36% to $214 billion by the end of March 2010. The Finance Minister, Pranab Mukherjee, says he aims to pump more cash into a rural employment program, increasing it by 144% to around $8 billion. Now, this and other populist measures have been widely welcomed. But how far will they go towards really helping the millions living below the poverty line? Prerna Suri reports.
Not an easy job, but it's the only option Parmeshwar Singh has. A daily wage worker, he puts in 5 hours of hard labour under the searing summer sun and earns only $1.50 a day to feed his family of 6. India's economy has slowed down by the global economic crisis, with the government walking a tightrope between increasing growth and addressing development. In this year's budget, Indian Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee included a number of SOPs for the underprivileged.
I am happy to announce that the work on National Food Security Act has begun in right earnest. This will ensure that every family living below poverty line in rural or urban areas will be entitled by law to 25 kgs of rice or wheat per month at ₹3 a kilo.
But previous budgets too promised Parmeshwar Singh a lot. But did he get anything from them?
No, the government has done nothing for us. They promised us cheap ration. Earlier we used to get 35 kilos of grains, and now we get only 20 kilos. And that too, very expensive.
For millions of people in India, this is their reality. Not enough food, not enough electricity, and not even a proper roof over their heads. And with the new budget in place, which promises a whole host of social welfare schemes, the big question now is whether things will change.
Government in India has not created those safety nets over the last 20 years of liberalization. So the first order of business as far as the budget is concerned is to work towards creating those safety nets.
Parmeshwar shows us his below the poverty level card, one of India's many answers to a social security system for the underprivileged. The card promises Parmeshwar rice and pulses for 50 cents a kilo. But has this helped him?
No, this card gives me rice at ₹8 a kilo. Here it is too expensive. I have to buy my rice and wheat at a higher price. The merchants do not give us allotted rice. We are forced to buy in the black market.
According to a recent government survey, 50% of the Indian population remains below the poverty limit. Shanti tells us that she has no card, although the government promised her one.
Every day is a struggle to get our next meal, a struggle to find a way to feed myself and my children.
For Parmeshwar and his family, their expectations from their government are very simple.
I want an identity. I want the government to provide me with more schemes to help me and my family.
And if this year's budget promises are kept, perhaps these may come true. But there's still a long way to go before that happens. Prerna Suri, Al Jazeera, New Delhi.
Well, joining me from New Delhi is Mohan Guruswamy, chairman and founder of the Centre of Policy Alternatives. Thanks for being with us. Now, this has gone down very well in popular terms, but how sound is it economically?
It is sound economically, considering that you have a drought coming. The monsoons have generally failed this year, and they've been late in coming. So you will have to create lots more jobs in the non-agricultural sector. So, you know, this spending is inevitable.
But we saw the stock market in India reacted very badly to it. And of course, we've had the usual criticisms that are thrown at India, and that is that it's concentrating on government-led programs rather than allowing the market to take control and help boost income.
Well, the stock market doesn't really reflect the state of the economy. There was a time when the stock market was growing when the Indian economy was contracting. So I think the stock market is very speculation-driven and driven by foreign funds. So, you know, I don't think that is an indicator at all of the well-being of the economy.
But the international opinion will still say that the fiscal deficit is important. That is rising very fast. They will say that unless the government allows greater trade and globalization, that the Indian economy will lag. You don't think those are relevant concepts?
Well, the government is not opposed to globalization. The government is not opposed to growth of trade. The government is not opposed to investment. None of the policies, all the policies are pro that. But the question is that there is only a certain amount of money, and you have to prioritize that. To say that you run a deficit is, you know, somehow anti-good economics is not correct, because, you know, there isn't a single economy in the world which runs without a deficit now. Take the United States, living on deficits.
How successful do you think this program will be in creating jobs and will be in lifting the general income level and easing poverty?
Well, you know, I was one of the skeptics when this program was announced 5 years ago, but I think the job rural employment program has been quite successful, and that has also been reflected in the electoral successes of the Congress party.
What about the inflation picture? Do you think that might prove a problem in the coming months and years?
Well, right now we have zero inflation, which, as an economist, I'll tell you is not very good. There's some inflation is essential, but mind you, the basket of goods in India's inflation consists of, you know, all kinds of things which are not consumed on a daily basis. So we'll have to be careful about that also. But you know, already because of the adverse conditions of the monsoon, certain food articles prices have gone up. In Delhi, for instance, all the vegetables have gone up considerably. So there will be some rise in commodity prices, but that is something we will have to live with.
And as far as the fiscal deficit is concerned, the government has said they're going to bring it down to 4% within the next 2 years or so. Is that realistic?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen, but you know, it'll be around 5% after a couple of years. It came down to about 4.5% 2 years ago, but last year, just before the elections and because of runaway inflation, they had to increase the deficit. But I think once the growth pattern settles down and the growth kicks in from next year, deficits will come down, revenue buoyancy will be there. There would be, you know, this year there was also a revenue contraction.
Thank you very much.
A reminder that you can keep up to date with these and other stories on our website, aljazeera.net/English, and click on the left-hand side for the business page. That's it from me, Mariam Namazi, this week on Counting the Cost. Thanks for watching.